Good afternoon and welcome. This is Real Chicks Rock presents Real Discussions. I'm your host for today, Michelle Dawsbert, and of course, I'm always super excited. I know I look a little lonely here in the studio today, but I'm not, because I have the charismatic, the powerful Jessica Care Moore on the phone with us today, and we're going to talk about Black Women Rock with Jessica Care Moore. Jessica, how are you?
I'm blessed. I love talking about Black Women Rock.
I know you
and
do.
I love the name of your show. I love it.
Thank
I love
you.
anything that has to do with women being great.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
So.
Thank you. And so and that's a wonderful segue, Jessica. So let me tell our new listeners what Real Chicks Rock is all about. It's all about the empowerment of women, and we do it through various different vehicles and platforms. We do it through community service, we do it through public speaking and mentoring, and we do it through the arts. And so this is an artistic platform, if you will, where we have conversations with phenomenal people like yourself, Jessica, that's all about creating and empowering women. And you do it, Jessica, through various different ways and mechanisms, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to jump right into that. Jessica, born and raised in Detroit, is that correct?
The D all day.
The D all day.
Yeah.
Why do everybody that's from the D says that? The D, from the D all day. Detroit is an awesome little city.
I'm a Detroit girl for sure. You know,
yes.
And I've lived in New York. We're just talking about it. I'm in Brooklyn now, and it's my second home is New York City.
Really?
I got a lot of love for Harlem, where I lived, and for Brooklyn, where it was my first place I lived back in '95. So I was a part of the hip hop and the early burgeoning poetry scene that was happening in the '90s here.
Nice.
So New York is also in my heart as well. But Detroit is home. I was, born and raised, and spent my younger years in the D, just becoming the woman that I am.
Yes.
Being from Detroit is. It gives you a certain kind of energy to be able to take on the world. So when I moved to Brooklyn by myself, in 1995, I wasn't really afraid to be here. People were worried that you're there by yourself, and I was like, "Nah, I got it. I'm from Detroit."
Yeah.
And that just kind of became my mantra for surviving a lot of different things.
Wow.
And came here and looked for all those poets, like the Reggie Gaines and Tony Medina and the Nuyorican poets and people I've been reading about and searching. And I searched for them, and I found a lot of them and made them my friends. And then in 1997, I started publishing their work through More Black Press and publishing Saul Williams' first book. And then later on, doing Sharice Simmons and Raz Baraka, who was the mayor of Newark.
Yes.
And Asha Mandeli, who was the first woman on my press. And so I started building an institution around my work very quickly. But that was really about me being from Detroit and being a blue-collar poet, a working-class poet, and understanding that it was always deeper than just my own voice. It had to be about a community around my voice and the community I was serving. So, yeah, and Black Women Rock, that we'll talk about, I know, is just an extension of that work.
Yes.
And when brilliant people, you can't. I don't know how to not tell people about everybody I know that's a genius because we don't get to hear about our Black genius. We just hear about there's a lot of mediocrity on the radio, a lot of mediocrity on bookshelves.
Yes.
And so I happen to know Black excellence. So I like to tell everybody about it.
And you're doing an awesome job in doing that, Jessica. You're doing a great job in doing that. A little bit about Detroit. When you were a kid growing up in Detroit, what was the vibe like musically for you? What kind of music drew you in?
Well, the soundtrack for my life was Aretha Franklin, was Smokey Robinson, Diana Ross and Supreme, David Ruffin's voice.
Yes.
I mean, that's what my house sounded like. I mean, I really didn't find jazz, even though we have a lot of jazz greats that came out of Detroit as well. I didn't really find jazz until I was a little older because I just thought everybody was, that sounded like how Gladys Knight's voice and those sounds of soul. That was my childhood sounded like. It also sounded like, Cosmic Cars and, Ring My Bell and, all those other things too. And so it was, growing up in Detroit was noisy, lots of kids on the block.
Yes.
It was then probably 8 million folks, in Metro Detroit. Yeah, we had a bigger population there. We were in the millions if you count the Metro Detroit area for sure. So the population was much heavier than it is now.
Yes.
And And we still have bigger numbers than because people always talk about the population's gone down. It's now coming back up, you know, through gentrification and things that are happening all over the country with, which is like, you know, it's just give and take of what gentrification is. And, you know, so when people talk about like Detroit being like now coming alive, where I'm like, I grew up, like Detroit has always been alive. Detroit's always been on the pulse of art and what's happening in the world. And nobody, just because you came here from another place doesn't mean our city now is alive.
Right.
Like we built, the people there built the city, and what makes the city great is the people, not how many buildings other people own. It's actually the people that live in these homes in these real neighborhoods. So, you know, it's that irritating narrative that is happening everywhere in places like Brooklyn and even, you know, the Bronx for that matter, or Harlem, and, you know, those changes that occur. And because we're still an 85% black city, you know, so we chocolate, you know, for the most part, you know, and it's, you know, this neighborhood where you come, even my own, where I live, close to downtown, where if you visited and you didn't leave in that neighborhood, you just stayed in the cultural district or whatever, where the things are moving and happening downtown, you would be like, this is Detroit. So you really have to, anybody come in who's listening that comes to Detroit, you got to call me. You have to hit me up on Twitter and Instagram, and you can be like, Jessica, I need you to show me the people, and
now
so I can show you my city.
Now you tell me, Jessica, because I came.
You got to come back.
I came for movement, and then when I came back, you know, shouts out to Ken Wright, because he was like, you didn't connect with Jessica. I said no. He said
I was in the front row at Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh my God!
I was trying to throw my whole body on the stage and thought maybe RZA would catch me or something. I was like, RZA, I'm right here in the front. I mean, I was trying to come on. What's up?
Come on.
Lots of vegan babies everywhere.
I know that's right. Jessica, what was your first love? Yes. What was your first love? Because you have so many different talents inside of you. Was it poetry your first love, or was it music? Was it the music?
I mean, I think it was mine. I had a big imagination as a little girl, kind of zoned out, and probably an artist very young.
Okay.
At like around 9 years old, I loved animals. I thought I was gonna be a veterinarian. Okay. So I had a love for nature, like to be outside. I love, you know, we had a lot of animals growing up, dogs and cats and birds and shit. And so I think animals, but I had a love for stories. Okay. And I love for reading. Before I became a writer, it was the reading. My mother had biographies and memoirs in my home. And so I was reading really fast, really young. I always say that my mother ate books. So she still eats books, like literally, like would speed read, pass it into a novel, and be done. Like, and so she noticed that I had the same gift of just kind of being able to read a book very fast. But I was reading like the autobiography of like Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and Dan Brokaw. My mother was reading out these American biographies and was a hippie, 60s, you know, hippie from Woodstock and all that kind of stuff. So, so that was a big influence on me becoming a writer, because if you can't write if you don't read, you can't write well. Like I hear young poets and I can tell that they don't read anything. Within like 2 stanzas, I'm like, oh, they just listen to themselves, or they found poems on YouTube, you know, and didn't put a book in their hand. And so because I'm great that I'm old enough to learn about poetry, learn how to become a writer by actually reading books, and then young enough to still be cool and still be connected to hip hop. And I like the generation that I came up in. Like this new one, I have a beautiful, you know, 11-year-old poet in my house and a burgeoning musician. And I'm always making sure he has that physical thing in his hand, that book, you know. And so, so I mean, but the poetry, I started writing like I was like 9 or 10. Around the same time, my son has been writing. He's writing very young too. He's way better than I ever was. Right. At the age that he's at, he's really advanced. But he got a poetry mommy, so it's different for him. It's in his DNA. Yeah, but my mother recognized my gift as well, and probably didn't know what to do except give me books. And so she gave me To Be Young, Gifted, and Black by Lorraine Hansberry. Right. She gave me Alice Walker and Maya Angelou books. So that, powerful, you know, my mother early put that in. And then I got into Detroit Public Schools. And when I was in Detroit Public Schools, they weren't destroyed yet. Okay. So there were actually good art programs, and theater actually existed. And so Susan Story, my drama teacher, brought into Zaki Shange's For Color Girls, into a black box theater in 11th grade. And my whole life got changed. Nice. And I was like, what? There's women who write like that?
Yeah.
This is like, it was some of the most gangster. You talking about people talk about gangster rap. I was like, you need to, if you think something is gangster, like read an Intozaki Shange book. Like wrap yourself around that language.
I know that's right.
That's gangster.
That
and
is
so
gangster.
it was, yeah. So Intozaki changed my life, and is now a friend. Is now someone I've read poems with and laughed with, and can call on the telephone. So. I have a really, really blessed life, to have been I've been a poet now 25 years. Awesome. And worked with some amazing people. I'm actually at Talib Kweli's house, talking to you from Talib's house. He's one of my dear friends. Yeah, I know, right? He just left out to go be with his family. But I mean, yes, he's put out my first album in 2015. Black Tea, The Legend of Jesse James, and literally I was playing him my album in his house, and he's known for years music. I've been trying to find the music of my work forever, rock and roll, house, techno, whatever.
Right.
And he was like, he heard it, and he loved the album. He's like, what are you going to do with this? And I was like, I don't know what you're going to do with it. And I knew he had Javoti, and he had a label, and he's been working on putting out other artists like Nico Is and Kay Valentine. And so he didn't have a poet on the roster. He was like, I'll put it out. And so it's been amazing.
Awesome.
Like, he's been a part of my extended support system. So artists supporting artists, like Talib got that same spirit that I have with like helping other artists and using your stage to make sure other people have stages.
And that's what's
and that's what Black on Rock. Black on Rock is 2004 National Black Arts Festival. I was a young producer there and living in Atlanta. Probably how I met Ken Rye, and who was a mutual friend of ours. And they asked me what you want to do this year, and I just said, I want to bring some of the women that I know from New York and these other places who are cutting-edge rock artists and do a tribute to Betty Davis. And so that's where Black on Rock started. It'll be 15 years. Next year, I've been doing this incredible series that is a multimedia show that has a conversation connected to it about race and inclusion in the entertainment industry, what it's like to be a Black woman that plays rock and roll, that doesn't play or sing R&B, that can sing R&B, but chooses to do something else with her energy and body and life that isn't celebrated enough.
Right.
And I mean, to be honest, Michelle, like I think our role in this work, this cultural work of being an artist, is to just be a void filler.
Yes.
Like to fill the void that isn't there. And I would think after almost 15 years that the void should be filled, but it's not.
But it's not.
And these women who have traveled all over the world, who people I've never heard of her. So when I moved back to Detroit, I was like, when I came back home after doing it in Atlanta, it was super successful in Atlanta.
Right.
I was like, I got to bring this back to the house, and I got to show Detroit, because Detroit, we get sometimes that's one of those cities we maybe the bigger artist names might come, but you miss some of those independent artists that want to really be in front of these Black audiences. And a lot of times rock and roll artists, they end up just being in front of majority white audiences. And so I wanted, even like not beyond just the women, I helped bring Cody Chestnut to Detroit in front at the African World Festival.
Nice.
Because, I want him to see like this Black people, the African World Festival. And so, instead of going to the suburban club where you get a mixed crowd, which is diverse crowd is cool, but, Black folks need to know who our genius is deeper than just the things that's being fed to us on radio spins. And so, I'm a poet in the middle of a rock and roll movement. We're going back to San Francisco. We just did a Yerba Buena Center for the Arts in May, and they've asked us to come back to be a part of their YBCA 100, which is an honor to be on that list. And so we're going to go destroy the Bay Area again, November 3rd.
Destroy and kill
destroy and kill. This is what we do. Usually it's like about 12 to 15 women. Kat Dyson is our musical director, amazing guitarist, and we put together this killer rock orchestra, we call it, and bring about 7 to 10 headliners, and I produce a really fast-paced multimedia show. And we're going to be flipping Aretha. We're going to be homaging Aretha Franklin.
I know that's
right.
So,
if you're in the Bay Area and you're listening, or if you don't, get your plane ticket. It's worth that, too. We had people come out from all over the country in May, and we're annual in Detroit at the Charles H. Wright Museum. So that's been our home base since I've come home, and it's important. And the conversation around it is just as important as the music.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the women are extraordinary, so it's easy, you know, to produce the show when you have the talent pool that I'm pulling from, and yeah. But these women still don't have enough stages.
They don't.
Still don't have enough stages. Not enough money, not enough stages, not enough all of the things. You know,
not enough time, not enough proper representation, and the list goes on and on and on. Jessica, I want to talk to you about 5-time winner at the Apollo. True or false?
Oh yeah, that's amazing. I did that.
5-time winner at the Apollo.
Yeah, and that changed my life. Yeah. I was just a baby living in Brooklyn at the time, and my friend, I was performing at the Brooklyn Moon Cafe, and my friend Maurice Dwyer, who's a producer, filmmaker in LA now, saw me read poetry, and he was like, producing for the Apollo, and he's like, Jessica, you should come read your poems at the Apollo. And just being from Detroit and like understanding black stages and black audiences, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I can do that. I didn't think I would win the Apollo, but I knew that I could get away with doing a poem, and maybe they would clap. You know, it was really that simple for me. And I went there, and things got real weird quick. And even Steve Harvey, I remember how excited like Steve Harvey was, and Kiki Shepard and Ray Chu and the crew.
Wow.
And
that's
everyone
back in the
was
day. That's back in the day.
I was there with the originals. You know what I'm saying? The real Apollo. Like, you know, 1:00 in the morning, Saturday night.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's the real stuff. Congratulations, Jessica, for that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean that helped change my life. You know, that moment. So I'm very grateful to that stage. And I don't think it. You know, I think I'm the youngest Apollo legend living.
Wow.
So kind of cool.
Wow. You have a lot of firsts. You have a lot of firsts, Jessica. You do.
I guess.
Like in the publishing world, you were the youngest poet published in Apprentice Hall, right? So you
anthology. Yes, I was.
Yeah. So you have a lot of firsts. So you are a trailblazer in the things that you're doing, everything that you're doing. I want to talk a little bit about what's really a favorite of yours. Is it the music, Jessica? Is it the poetry? Which one weighs heavier on you, or they're equally the same? Because you're good at both of them.
Yeah, but poems, I'm a poet.
You're a poet.
I mean, you strip down everything. You know, I just, music is the way for me to get the poems to bigger audiences. So the music is kind of the catalyst to people feeling it in a different kind of way. And you just, as an artist that wants to reach people, I mean, poetry, I write big shows so that it can get me in front of more people.
Okay.
So, you know, like Salt City is a techno choreo poem that I've written that will premiere in Detroit in June of 2019. I won a few grants for that, and it's all Detroit techno music. We're going to hopefully do a preview during Movement Festival this year in Detroit. Nice. And then it's a full 2-act musical, and it's all Detroit techno and dance, contemporary dance theater. So it's a choreo poem. So I see the poems inside of everything. So I'm not scared of techno, opera, rock and roll. You know, I can find a way to weave the poems inside that because it's lyrics and it's stories. And so theater stages, rock and roll concerts. I just, you know, I have a limitless imagination when it comes to where my work belongs. It's everybody else that has to catch up.
I know that's
with
right.
the way that I see my work. And so, and just to speak about techno, like Jeff Mills, who was like top of tier list of like bucket list of producers I want to work with. I just recorded with Jeff Mills. If people don't know him, he's one of the most famous techno producers in the world. We used to know him as the Wizard on the radio in Detroit, but he lives in Paris now, travels all over the world, and is an icon in the techno and electronic dance music world, and an icon and an amazing human being. And I've wanted to work with him. We just recorded for his radio show, The Outer Limits, which is produced by NASA, who gets produced by NASA? I don't know. Who gets NASA as a sponsor?
Wow, and so, Jessica, congratulations.
Yeah, amazing. So that's out on, it's nts.live.
Okay.
You should be able to hear the show there. And it's called The Outer Limits. So he picks an artist in the world to collaborate with, and I believe I was the first African American woman for sure.
Of course you were. You're always the first, Jessica.
To ever collaborate with.
You're the first, Jessica, and a lot of
Oh
great
my
things.
God.
You know, on the
Yeah,
techno
thank
side,
you.
we have a mutual friend as well. And I've had Ken on the show, and I've had this young lady as well, Stacy Hot Wax Hale. So I've seen that. I know
Ah,
that
that's
you
my
guys.
sister.
I
She's our
know.
DJ for Black Women
There you
Rock.
go.
Yes.
There you go. So she talks about all of the great things that you guys are doing too. Let me ask you,
Yes.
Jessica, how do you select the women to be a part of Black Women Rock? Because I know it's a very multi-diverse, it's pretty diverse
Yep.
band, right? And some of those musicians play for Beyonce, right? Yes or no?
Oh yeah,
Right, right.
Divinity Rocks.
Yes.
Yeah, Divinity was a Beyonce's bass player for many years.
Okay.
And a lot of them play with like a trumpet player who I'm very proud of, Leslie Bonner, just a young trumpet player. She did the Apollo Theater with us, and we headlined there 2 years ago during the Women of the World Festival. And someone saw her, and now she is touring with Beyonce right now. And I got to go see her in Detroit, and I'm so proud of her. Trumpet player. So a lot of the women have played with all kinds of people. Yazara and Jessie Wagner are two women who've done my show, and they both toured with Lenny Kravitz. So a lot of them have done major, and I mean, of course, Joy is an icon. I mean, a soul music icon, and just a goddess, and one of my favorite people on the planet, just how she presents herself musically. And she's, I mean, completely inspired so many of us.
Right.
And she's super humble, despite being the amazing star that she is. I'm real proud of her. She was just featured on Luke Cage's, the Luke Cage series. I was going crazy watching Joy. And but we deserve these platforms, you know, and so it's like, I'm thankful when I see people open that door for artists like us, you know. So yeah, I'm blessed to know these women, and so some of them I know. So I actually know them. I know them because like Timur Kali, Divinity Rocks, and Imani Azuri all did my first Black Women Rock in 2004.
Nice.
And Divinity, and so I knew Imani Azuri and T. Kali from being on the New York scene. In the New York scene, I was working with Black rock musicians, so Black Rock Coalition and. So Vernon Reed, all those folks. I was trying to find a way to find myself because, I mean, I'm a poet, but I rock, you know, I'm a rock star too. So I'm rocking around. I'm rocking with. I want to deal with where the Black rockers at, you know. Like I want to create something different, you know. And so those were the people that were cutting edge to me. And so while I found solace and friendships inside the poetry scene, I also connected with musicians, and I love to watch. Like Timur Kali, I watched my first mosh pit. The first time I wanted to jump into a crowd was when a Black woman was on guitar, and I was like, oh, now I understand why people want to jump into some people. You know, 'cause now I want to jump into some people, and I never felt like that before. You know, and so. Those women were transformative, and they are still transformative. You know, Timur Kali, I'm speaking about, who wrote the soundtrack for Mudbound.
Yes.
I mean, she's an amazing composer, and so, and so I know some of them, and then some people now, because I've been doing it so long, people will send them to me. I actually just spent my morning looking at 3 different women. Some like Jackie Vincent, who is coming to Detroit August 28th. I'm bringing her. She's coming to town with her band to do a smaller set, but she did my show in March, and she's coming to San Francisco. Bad, the guitarist out of Austin, Texas, and it was just a friend of mine, Paris, who said, hey, you two need to know each other, and connected us on Instagram, and I booked her within 24 hours.
Wow.
I saw her video, and I was like, she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to know who she is, you know. And she's toured with Gary Clark Jr. It's like you can still like tour with Gary Clark Jr. and I can still, people can say, who is that?
Right.
So you know, there's a disconnect, you know. So you have to. I'm trying to make sure people know these women. So Jackie Vincent, another artist, if people don't know and they're listening, check her out. Stephanie Christian, one of the baddest vocalists in the world, and she's from a place called Detroit, Michigan, and she does every single one of my shows. I don't go nowhere without Stephanie. If she ain't there, it's because she on the road, and she had to do something outside the country. Because I mean, her voice is exquisite. Reminds me of Tina Turner, because I can't think of anybody else except Tina Turner when I think of Stephanie. Monica Blair is coming to do our show in San Francisco, another virtuoso on stage, brilliant voice. So there's so much talent that's underserved in this country. And so I'm working now on taking Black Women Rock even further outside the boundaries of the United States. So getting us out the country is really important. And and some tour support so I can get it, get some wheels on it and get it to more cities. But
Yes.
it's available for booking. People ask you where do you do it? I'm like, whoever is going to pay.
Yeah, whoever
we
wants
shall
you.
come.
Right. Yeah, you'll
We'll
come and do it. Now, Jessica,
Yeah, and I'm
no,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, just to be clear, it is a rock and roll show, so people are just clear about it. Like if, that's the distinction. There's a lot of things that have the word rock on it now,
Right.
even your radio show. So I'm very clear, like with Black Women Rock, it is about
Rock and roll.
rock and roll. It is absolutely about celebrating the women that came before us. Grace Jones and Betty Davis and Bessie Smith, for that matter, and Big Mama Thornton, Thornetta Thorpe, I'm saying Thornetta Thorpe, like all those Rosetta Thorpe, like all those women who laid the foundation when it really wasn't easy.
Right.
It really wasn't easy.
Yeah.
But I always make the comment, and I say it often, that Black women are the blues sped up. So you don't have rock and roll without Black women.
Wow.
You don't. And if you're actually trying to really talk about the legacy of American music and Black women's voices are not a part of that conversation, then you're doing a disservice to the history of the music.
I know that's right.
And yeah.
I know that's right. So, Jessica, you have performed on some amazing stages: Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, London Institute of Contemporary Arts. Any other platform or stage you're trying to get to, Jessica? What have you not done? Where you? Huh?
I want to do the Tate in London.
Okay.
There's. Yeah, I guess larger stages. I like the intimate spaces. I've done almost every stage in Detroit except the Fox Theater.
Okay.
Which is not a big stage. I don't know. I've toured South Africa. I want to get I want to get on the continent of Africa, to be honest. I wouldn't care about what the stage was, but that's the people I want to get to.
I know that's right. Yes.
I need to get to Ghana and Senegal and my people in Ethiopia and Kenya, like Nigeria. I want to get in front of more of the diaspora. I had the blessed to perform in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro last year, and that was amazing. I performed in Shanghai, which was crazy, to perform in China, in Hong Kong, and Shanghai. But I like to get on the continent more. So, more about who I want to be in front of, and I like to do more work on the continent of Africa. Absolutely, whether it be all the way south. And I've toured in South Africa. I have toured, and with Linton Kwesi Johnson, I did that some years ago. So, and South Africa is a big. That's a big space in my heart, and it's some work I want to do beyond just reading a poem in South Africa, and some of this, some work I want to do in Soweto. And so I want to get on the continent, on the motherland some more. That's the stage that I haven't done enough of performances at.
Okay, yeah, and that's a big stage, Jessica. That's a big stage with a lot of beautiful people, a lot of talented people. It would be a definite spiritual experience for you, and you would just feed off of that and keep growing and get bigger and bigger and bigger. I want to ask you this, Jessica, for those up and coming poets, are you interested in publishing other people? Can people get with you in some way, or it's just too much? It's too much.
It's a lot. Yeah, I took a little break from publishing because people still send me a lot of their work and ask me to publish them. It's hard for me to even get a blurb done on time, to be honest. But I am now working on publishing. My fifth book is We Want Our Bodies Back, that I wrote in honor of Sandra Bland. And so We Want Our Bodies Back is coming out, and I'm publishing a poet, Brad Walron. His book is called Everywhere Alien. Known Brad for many years, a brilliant writer. And there's some other poets I have lined up, even talking to Talib about a book. So I still can't help myself, but if I begin to publish more people, and I will, I believe, it's going to be through a major distribution deal, so that I don't have to do all the work of the marketing and distribution for the books. So that's actually in the works. So my memoir deal is coming. Love is Not the Enemy, which is based around my journey through motherhood.
Yes.
And I've had a very non-traditional story when it comes to mothering and loving children before my birth son even. And so talking about that journey as being an artist and a mother and a survivor of a lot of obstacles along the way, because you make it look easy, but you know that it's not.
It's not.
And so telling my story. So the book is coming. We Want Our Bodies Back is coming. And then definitely, more poets, but I'm kind of selecting people that I already have a relationship with right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if something comes across my way and I'm in love with it, I can't, I'm always kind of looking for that new voice.
Right.
There's a poet, Brad is one of them, and Tango Ison Martin, who's become a new friend of mine, I call him the King of California, but this brother's work is very extraordinary. He just won the American Book Award for poetry. And sometimes people win the awards, and I think, oh, their work is okay, but he's actually extraordinary. And so Tango, I'm bringing him to Detroit. Actually, I'm really happy to be bringing him to read in Detroit. And I think it might be his first time there. I'm presenting him at the Detroit Public Library at the end of November. So really honored to do that. And I'm bringing him to a thing I curate in Randallstown, Maryland, in Labor Day weekend. Okay. So I mean, when I hear something that's excellent, mm-hmm. I don't ignore it. So if I don't publish it, I'll find a way for them to get published, right. Or I'll connect them to somebody that can. Right. So I would never say no, because I'm always kind of looking for my tribe. Mm-hmm. And so Tango is that, Brad is that. Ursula Rucker is also that, my sister out of Philly. Okay. Shout out to Philly. Shout out to the Roots. The poet that's been all the Roots albums. If you don't know Ursula, you should. Mm-hmm. She's amazing. Yes. And we're hoping to publish Ursula's first book of poetry. Nice. So I'm working on more of a distribution to positioning more Black press in a different way going forward, just because at this time in my life, which is extraordinarily busy mm-hmm. and overwhelming, I just can't wear all the hats in the same way.
I mean, you're doing it, but you can't. You'll wear yourself out. Jessica, when I see you in person, when I meet you, will you sign a book or two for me?
Oh, be quiet. Come on now. Yeah, I can't wait. You should come. You should fly out to San Francisco for Black Women Rock. If you can make out for that weekend, just come on and make it a trip.
Don't tempt me, because I've been to San Francisco before, and it's a beautiful city.
Self-care trip. Come on.
You know what I mean? So do not tempt me. Do not tempt me. I'm actually about to leave today to head to India. For the week.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm attending.
A week long enough?
Yeah.
Enough.
Well, yeah, because I have a small son, too, so I need to make sure I get back and make sure everything is good with him. And down here in Atlanta, school starts early, so, I know.
Yeah, my son is in school already.
Yeah, so it cuts into some of the things that we want to do because they're already in school. But, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, but I definitely am a traveler, and I want to get out there. I want to see you in your home bases, Jessica, whether that be in Detroit or even in Brooklyn or even out and abroad. And definitely we're not afraid of Europe. So come on, let's do that. No. Let's get out there.
I know that's right. Thank you so much. And just know, and I know I'm a mom that has to leave away from my baby. And mm-hmm. I had to leave away from my first son, Omari, when he was very little and travel. And it was always hard going to the airport. And I would cry. And I remember Omari when he was little, and he's 23 now, and he would say, he looked at me once. I had just done a gig and come back to Atlanta, and I left back out the next day, and he was like, where are you going now? And it just breaks your heart. You're like, I'm going to get your money, like for the food and the shelter, baby. Like, I'm going to help our household and take care of you. And so just so you have to know that your son or your daughter, your babies are protected, and that you have to go away so that it actually helps them grow too. It does. And it builds character. And we're the ones that usually are have the issue. The kids be all right. It's us, like,
you come home there like, I didn't even know you were gone. Like, you're back.
Yeah, like, you're back already? Oh, okay, that's cool.
Back already? You back already?
Yeah.
So, Jessica,
I can't wait to
how
get
can
home today.
people find you? Because you're everywhere.
I'm on, Instagram is good. I'm good on Instagram. Jessica Care Moore without the E on Instagram. JessicaCareMoore.com. My website, it stays pretty current with my event schedule, my tour dates, where I'm going to be speaking or doing something. It's usually at JessicaCareMoore.com. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm on Twitter, Facebook. I'm on all the things.
All platforms.
I'm findable. I am findable on all platforms.
You are growing. One thing I wanted to ask you, Jessica, before I let you go, was the TED Talks. That is phenomenal. So tell us a little bit about it. You've done it several times, Jessica, right?
Yeah, I've done several times. I did a Ford Motor Company TED Talk about the theme around movement and technology, and wrote a piece about the migration of our people from the South to come up north to Detroit to build the auto industry. I've done different TED Talks. I did one with like Craig from Craigslist, and so I've done some of Detroit. This was really a special one. We filmed it in Las Vegas, and it was with a healthcare group called Optum, and so it's a very corporate healthcare provider that's trying to do something innovative. So TED produced a salon during their huge conference in Las Vegas to have innovative people talking about healthcare, and they brought me on to write a piece that talks about the challenges, and I decided to write a very personal piece. It's a very personal piece that I had written about my son and my struggles with going back home and leaving a marriage and having to start my life over, and figuring out to make sure my son could go to the doctor and we could have food and basic needs met while I figured out how to get myself back on my feet as a writer and artist. And so that's weaved in there, but the story also is about other people's struggles and people who are around me, like fighting cancer, in different alternative ways of taking care of ourselves, and how you're forced to take care of yourself in this country. Otherwise, you will not be able to go or be able to afford to ever go. I just feel like it's disgusting that a country that is this rich, truly, that people have to negotiate their health in that way. Like everyone should be able to go to the doctor and be well, and there's no reason, because we can afford to take care of the people who are born and live here, and then we could take care of other people across the globe as well. Like, it's not like the country is broke, but that's a basic need that it's just shameful that it's even a conversation, that only the rich deserve to be taken care of or be able to go to the doctor. It's for many years and years, I went without health care, and a lot of my independent artist friends went without health care. We would just pay to go to the dentist, or you don't go at all, and things fall apart, and you go when it's an emergency. Then you have a bill you can't pay, and so I'm excited. I don't know when it's going to premiere. I went to the TED.com site, and there's a story about it that's really beautiful, and I posted a photo about it, so I'm waiting for it to actually premiere on the TED site. And the one from Ford Motor Company was a Ford event, so Ford has that footage, so that's never been on the TED site. Wow. So I'm excited that this one will actually be on the TED.com site, so it's coming at some point. I'll make sure I'll post it and all that good stuff.
Please, Jessica, keep us posted. I want to say thank you for everything that you do, because it's very inspirational. You are filled with empowerment, because you give us the know-how and the wherewithal to go forward, because we don't always know how to make things happen. But when you have a passion and a dream, you're determined and destined to keep moving and push it. And when people see that you're committed to your belief, they partner with you, they support you, and it just starts to bubble up and open up, and things start happening. So I am just so thankful for today that you were able to give us some time and share, because I really want people like yourself to have an opportunity to share, because you're doing legendary work.
Thank you.
And it needs to be captured, and we need to be able to have it, and people can see it and know and understand everything that Jessica Caremore was about. So thank you so much, Jessica, for your time today. This was awesome.
Thank you. Yes, Real Chicks rock. Let's go.
Yes. For all of you guys that are listening or watching, we thank you for taking time to listen with us today. We're going to have this everywhere. You know where I am, everywhere. Instagram, Facebook. Check out my website. Until next time, guys, you take care and continue to rock on. Bye.
Yay!